Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to do a double VR because we've got two Valentine's Day themed tarot tags. One is the Valentine's Tarot tag by Auntie K. I heard about this one through Laura at Aquamarine18. The other Valentine's Day themed tag is called Deck Crush, which was by Lisa Papez, Dawn Michelle, Danny Mystic, and Marlene Teresa. Of course, I will put the links to these videos and the prompts of these videos in the description below. I really wanted to try to use tarot for both of them, but for the Valentine's Tarot tag by Auntie K, even though it says tarot, when I tried to put oracle decks into there instead, I felt like the prompts just sang to me so much more. Like it was just easier for me to fit my oracle decks into that one, and somehow easier for me to fit the tarot decks into the Deck Crush tag. So I'll get to feature both oracle and tarot decks in this video. Alright, we are going to switch to the top-down view and look at these decks. So first we're going to get started with the Valentine's Tarot tag. Like I mentioned in the intro, I tried to use tarot, but I just felt like oracle decks fit here a lot better. So prompt number 1 is your main squeeze deck, the deck you go to again and again and will always return. My main squeeze oracle deck is the Spread Machine Cards and Oracle, or as it's now known, the Spread Crafter's Oracle. This is the very first edition that I got from Kickstarter, so that's why it's called the Spread Machine Cards. So the reason why the Spread Crafter's Oracle is my main squeeze deck is because the way that it's organized, the way that it is laid out, the way that the cards are designed just really sings to me. We've got the Seeker cards. These are prompts that relate to the Seeker or the Querent, the one who's doing the reading. We have cards related to light work and shadow work. And we have cards that are related to calls to action. So within the calls to action, you have boundary, you have expansion, you have processing, you have success. Sometimes when I shuffle them all together, they just all kind of muddle up for me. But I do love that there are separate categories. It makes the type A in me very happy. And the fifth type of card that we have is the focus areas. So this is also very helpful for if I'm not sure what to do a reading on. I would pull a card here as literally a prompt, and that would help me do a reading around this prompt. I also like to do pick a card readings. I mean, not that I've done that many before, but I would like to do more in the future. And I just think this would be a really cool way to jumpstart some pick a card reading topics. Again, readings for myself or for others. I think this is just a very cool deck to have. This is a really cool deck for creating different spreads. But when I initially got this, I thought the idea of creating like 5, 6, 10 card spreads was so cool. And I definitely did a few readings for people using like 10 cards, 5 to 10 cards, because I just couldn't choose which cards. But now that I'm more familiar with tarot and oracle and spread crafting, I definitely just like to do 3 to maybe 5 cards. But still, I just think that the way that it's laid out, like you have the keyword, you have the prompt here, and you have the category here, like this extreme organization. The deck is organized enough that it really helps me, and also it's still freeform enough that I feel, I don't know, it inspires me. I love the pastel colors, these like galaxy stars, looking colors and textures. Like it's just totally my aesthetic. I really love the galaxy, the stars aesthetic here. And I especially love these call to action cards because oftentimes I can feel like oracle decks are very, I don't know, light oriented and very like, flowery. And I just love that these call to action cards help me figure out a way that I can actually move forward from it. How can I actually move forward from this reading? What can I actually do in my life? How can I practically apply this reading to my life? I just think this is such a cool deck. I would never give this up. I'm so happy that this was the first ever deck that I backed on Kickstarter. It really sings to me. This is my main squeeze deck, the Spread Crafter's Oracle. Number 2, the One Night Stand deck. You loved them so much at first, but in the light of morning, you ran. This deck is currently on loan to a friend, so I don't have it on display right now. If I can find any footage that I have of it, I will put it here, but if not, maybe just pictures. Anyway, number 2, my One Night Stand deck is the Cosma Visions Oracle. I loved this deck at first. This was the second deck that I backed on Kickstarter. The green backs are so pretty. Green is one of my favorite colors. The hollow edging, everything about the deck was so pretty, so beautiful. I don't want to say that every single pretty thing catches my eye, but that specific deck, that specific type of pretty was very appealing to me. I've had the deck for about 2 or 3 years since it first came out. However, I only started really learning about it and really reading into it like this past year. The idea of past lives was really interesting, and the way that this deck laid them out and talked about it was really interesting. However, after I started reading about the deck, I got through the majors. The majors were really interesting and cool. However, the minors kind of became a little bit annoying to me. I might put my thoughts more into another video about the Cosmovisions Oracle, But for now, I'll just say this is my one night stand deck. I loved it so much, it was so pretty, but as I got to know it more and more, especially for the minors, I got kind of annoyed with it. I don't know if I'll actually read with it. So that's my one night stand deck. Number 3, the other person deck. A deck pulling your attentions away from your main squeeze. Now, as I mentioned, the Spreadcrafters Oracle is my main squeeze, but a deck that comes pretty close is the Prairie Majesty Oracle. And when you look at it, I feel like it's pretty obvious why this might pull me away from the Spreadcrafters Oracle. A lot of it is very similar, very functionally similar. We've got the keyword, we've got a prompt, we've got pretty colors. What's different about the Prairie Majesty is that it has these different animals, these different colors, very clearly a different art style. However, this does not replace my main squeeze because the main squeeze, the Spread Machine Oracle, it's more tarot. What is it? It's more tarot side, so I can actually lay out cards. Whereas this one, I feel like I can only use it as a single card pull. I can't lay these out in different spreads like I can with the Spread Machine Oracle. So this one, very simply put, is the other person deck. It pulls my attention away from my main squeeze, but it could never actually replace my main squeeze. So that is the Prairie Majesty Oracle. Number 4, the Friends with Benefits deck. You adore this deck, kind of like besties. They make you hot, but they just aren't main squeeze material. This one I chose the Knitter's Oracle. The reason why this is my Friends with Benefits deck, I do absolutely adore. I love the absolutely simple color palette. This is very, very cool. It really sings to me. I feel like I've said sings to me a lot, but I feel like that's just how I can describe these Oracle decks. They really just sing to me. I am a knitter and crocheter. I am a fiber artist, if you couldn't tell by these things that I have crocheted. It's a really, really cool deck. And I think that the concepts are so ingenious. The way that this person has tied them into divination and introspective concepts is super, super interesting. I'd like to read the guidebook back to back and actually study this deck and make my own associations with this. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I know that I will in the future. For now, I know that I adore it. I feel like it is one of my best friends deck because, again, the topic really speaks to me. However, they're just not main squeeze material because it's not as versatile as I feel like the Spreadcrafters Oracle is, and just nothing could replace it. But this is a pretty close second or third. It's my bestie. So this is the Knitter's Oracle here. This is such a cute image. Oh, balls, the little yarn store. Just super cute. I adore this deck. It's so fun to handle as well. Look at these gold edges, the way that it shuffles. It's a smaller deck, so that means that it's a lot easier to shuffle as well. I adore it. There's nothing that I don't love about this deck. It's just adorable. Number 5, the Dinner Date deck. This is a deck that's classy with good conversation. It really makes you think, probably a little pricey. So this deck, I don't know if it was pricey. I think it was $25, which honestly, for the amount of cards, is a little bit pricey. This is the Asian American Literary Review Tarot, AALR. So the way that the deck is structured, first of all, even though the title of the deck says tarot, I've labeled it an Oracle deck because this is not a tarot deck. It does not have tarot structure. Even though some of these cards kind of line up with tarot concepts, I just consider it more of an Oracle deck than a tarot deck. So it really makes me think, like the prompt says. The front of the card has the art here, and the back has the write-up, depending on, based off of, I don't know how to describe it. It's written by different authors. There we go. Different authors contributed to this Asian American Literary Review Tarot. These concepts are really interesting, and they really make me think on a deeper level, especially because I'm Asian American, and my parents are Asian. You know, I am of Asian diaspora. It makes me think about these concepts and how they play out in our lives, in my present life, in our past lives, as in via our ancestors, via my parents, via our grandparents. It makes me think about these concepts on a societal level and also on an individual level. Like, how do these concepts that have applied to us as a people, how do these also apply to and manifest in my current life, in my individual life? This deck is kind of a challenge to work with sometimes because if I wanted to do like actual spreads with this, some of these cards just seem it's hard to see them in a neutral way. Some of these cards seem like they're meant to be read as a positive way, and some of them seem like they're supposed to be read in a negative way. And it's difficult to read with it in a neutral way, but I think that's part of the challenge. So eventually I would like to really deeply more deeply study this deck one by one and really internalize these concepts and really kind of make my own meanings from it and think about how I can read these in a neutral way and or how I can see a positive and a negative to each of these cards. It's a really, really fascinating deck. And I feel like even if you're not Asian American, if you're into societal concepts at all, sociological concepts, this is a very interesting deck that is worth checking out. So that's my dinner date deck. Number 6, the Club Night deck, a deck you effortlessly dance with. I don't have a bag for this one, so this one is just coming out bare. This is what I call the Mary Lou Affirmations deck. This is a deck that is not marketed very much in the tarot and oracle, the esoteric spiritual world, but I learned about this deck through my life coach. What's really cool about this deck is that on the front, it's got the thing, and then on the back of each deck, it's got the Spanish and the French translation for what it says on the front. So this is the creator, Mary Lou Falstro, and like I mentioned, I learned about this through my life coach. Let me give this a nice shuffle. Because this is not marketed as an oracle deck, the cardstock is pretty flimsy. Let me tell you about this deck and why it's my Club Night deck. So I've been seeing my life coach for like 3 or 4 years now. And the first time that I heard about this deck, she basically pulled a card for me every single session. Or the way that she did it was like pull a card and I would pull a card. And that card felt like a message for me. And this card was pulled at the end of each session. And let me tell you, at the end of a session, after I've been crying my heart out and like working through all of this stuff, talking about this out loud for the first time with my life coach in the safe space, to have a card that says, one day she understood that she had been a hero all along. That felt so powerful to me. These kinds of small messages that seem like another person, and yet I can also apply these messages to myself, that was amazing. That felt amazing to me. It just felt like magic to me. This was one of the first cards that I first drew, and it really got to me. One day she realized she could have been dancing all along. And this made so much sense to me because when I was talking about my childhood trauma and like crying about how hard some of these things were, how much I was like being hard on myself, to think one day I realized I could have been dancing all along. That really changed things for me. This is one of my favorite cards. It really stands out to me. And so this is a deck that I effortlessly just dance with. That's a hard word to say, effortlessly. So say that this is a deck that I just dance with enjoyably, that I enjoy hanging out with at night. I can dance with them the whole night. It's just wonderful. The art is wonderful. The abstractness, the artisticness, I love it. I love it. My life coach and I are now doing telehealth sessions, so we don't draw as much cards as we used to, but I did buy this deck for myself this past year because I just really want to keep drawing cards for myself and look at these messages and look at this art. So it's just beautiful. I wholeheartedly love dancing with this deck. It just really sings to me. It really hits my vibe. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm just talking out of my butt here. All right. Anyway, so that's what I call the Mary Lou Affirmations deck. Number 7, the Forever Single deck. This is a deck that isn't one of your workhorse decks. You pull this deck out for you or for something special. This deck fills you with self-love, and you like it that way. My Forever Single deck is the Reclaim Oracle. This is the perfect deck that I consider my Forever Single deck because this is not a deck that I would pull for anybody else. I might pull it for other people if I was really close with that person. But for someone that I'm not that close with, or for any pick a card reading, I would definitely not pull this deck out because I feel like these images are so personal to me. This is a deck that I definitely pull out only for myself. I would kind of say also something special because I don't use this deck super often because sometimes the messages are too hard-hitting and they're too close to home, they're too personal. But when I do pull this deck out, it fills me with a lot of love and relief, really. I absolutely love the way that the creator has illustrated these concepts. I just think that the abstract, I don't know if it's abstract, but the way that these concepts are drawn out, it really fills me with so much feeling. And again, because these concepts, these words, these emotional concepts, these visual concepts, they're so personal to me, I would never pull this deck out for anybody else. So it's just too personal. And some of these cards, they really fill me up with emotion. I really, really love this deck, and I'm so happy to have this in my collection. This is my Forever Single and Loving It deck, the Reclaim Oracle. So that's the Valentine's Tarot tag by Auntie K. Now we're going to go to the other tag, which is Deck Crush. Who are my deck crushes? Number 1, we've got the Fling, a deck with which you had a short period of wild times. The deck I chose is the Somnia Tarot. And I chose this deck because in October, this past October, I decided to do a bunch of past life readings with this deck. And let me tell you, the past life readings I did were incredible for me and for the other person, if I do say so myself. The time that I used this deck was pretty short, honestly, only that October. I probably got it in like September and I started using it all October. After that, I haven't used it since because I have other decks that I'm working through. But this one, definitely we had a lot of wild times. I did like 30 or 40 past life readings during that month of October. And they were incredible. It got me really learning the deck super well in a very, very short period of time. And a lot of those readings were really good. And I say good, not in like to toot my own horn, like, oh, my readings were super good. But it was good in the way that I felt so connected with the deck. I felt like the imagery was really, really speaking to me. And I felt like the way that this deck illustrated, the ways that these photos are, it just really helped me weave together a story. It just really helped me with my storytelling skills, with my tarot skills. So short period though, because again, I haven't used it since, but that's okay. I know that this deck is here when I want it, but for now it is just a fling. That's the Somnia Tarot, the Fling. Also, I did post a tutorial on how I do my secular past life readings on my channel, so I'll link it here if you're interested in checking that out. Number 2, Puppy Love, a deck with which you were infatuated but couldn't make a long-term commitment to. My Puppy Love deck is the Weird Cat Tarot. This is a Puppy Love deck because, first of all, when I look at this deck, it is just so adorable, and the fact that this deck is adorable and looks this cute, that is the main reason why I cannot let go of this deck. I cannot rehome it. I have to keep it. Also, the pink edges are glorious. But really, I just can't let go of this deck. It's so adorable. I love these eyes. I love the little like chaotic, the line work here, the illustrations here, extra drop shadows. I don't know how to describe it, but the extra colors on the cards just really make me happy. It's so cute to look at. It makes me infatuated with it, but I can't make a long-term commitment to this because I don't love reading with this deck. This deck is a little bit pippish / overly simple for my taste. Like the King of Wands, the court cards just don't have much for me to go off of visually. So, for tarot concepts and tarot like associations, I don't use it for that. But for a deck that makes me really happy, that makes me really giddy to look at, that makes me feel really cute and aw inside, puppy love, yeah, that's this deck, the Weird Cat Tarot. Number 3, Friends with Benefits, a deck you care about but sometimes get extremely passionate for. The deck I chose is the Tarot in Space. This is the latest edition, the Cosmic Zen edition. Now, I admit I don't use this deck as much as I would like, but I feel like a lot of us can say that about all of our decks. We all wish we could use our decks more, or at least I do. I freaking love this deck. I love the space concepts. I love the queerness in this deck. Some of these, I can't really find a picture right now, but anyway, I love the different colors, the different alien themes, I guess, in this deck. The alien but still humanoid looking themes. I think the colors, the neon colors here are super cool. I love the different language that the creator has wanted to include in these cards. I don't use it as much as I would like. I feel like it's just because I have other decks on the table right now, other decks I'm working through right now, but I still love to have this. This is one of my favorite color schemes. Oh yes, here, the queerness in this deck. Anyway, it's one of my favorite like color schemes, color textures. I don't know how to describe it. I think what I mean to say is I'm just a sucker for galaxy aesthetics and galaxy concepts. And this one is just one of the space decks that I just really love. I don't think I have any other space themed decks really. It would just be this one. So even though I don't use it, I would defend this to the death. I would consider it an underrated deck. I wish everybody knew about this deck. I wish everybody was using this deck. But, it's my Friends with Benefits deck. It's friendly. It's not my main squeeze, but I still love it, and I still am very passionate for it. So that is the Tarot in Space. Number 4, Love at First Sight, a deck you loved from the start. This is the Tarot of Mystical Moments. This was the first collage deck that I bought, and I don't know, I'm just really in love with it. I don't usually love collage art, but I love the way that this is done because it just looks so seamless. The imagery is so dreamy and so poetic, and I feel like it just works so well. Hence, that's why this is one of the only collage decks that I have. Other alternatives like the Dreaming Way Tarot and Dream Keepers, things like that, they just don't really pique my interest. I really don't know how to describe it. This was love at first sight for me. It also does surprise me a little bit why this is love at first sight, because I don't typically love or care for these old school looking art and faces, these old school looking paintings. I don't know how to describe it. Like these old school faces. But again, I think it's because the imagery, the rest of the imagery, it just feels so poetic. And even though I also don't consider myself much of a poetic person, I still really like this deck. So this is an unexplainable love at first sight kind of deck. I really can't rationalize why I love this, but I do. That's Love at First Sight, Tarot of Mystical Moments. Number 5, The One Night Stand, a deck you tried out but moved on from almost immediately. Sometimes you still think about that deck. I chose the Tarot Fauna. Now, I did try out this deck, and I enjoyed it enough. I love the colors. I love the cardstock. I love especially how simple-ish, how straightforward the images are. But I feel like I moved on from it almost immediately because I'm just not into animals. And I hope you don't hate me for this, but I'm just not as connected with animals as other people are, I feel like. And even though these animals are so expressive, and I love that about this deck, I just find myself enjoying other decks more. I don't know what else to say about this. It's not like I chose to move on from it. It was a subconscious thing. You know, when I was looking at these prompts, I looked at my decks and I was like, oh shoot, the Tarot Fauna. I literally haven't pulled it out since the last time I did readings with it, like 1 or 2 years ago. And it makes me a little bit sad. Like the 10 of Feathers, 10 of Swords here. A bit sad, you know, looking at this cracked egg. But that's a fact, you know. I tried it out and I enjoyed it. And then somehow I moved on from it almost immediately. So that is the Tarot Fauna, my one night stand. Number 6, We Were on a Break, a deck you're separated from for any reason. This is the Threads of Fate Weaver Tarot. This is pretty much a new copy, so it has not been shuffled, so all the cards are still in order. Let me tell you about this deck. So the Weaver Tarot. I got one copy a few years back, like in 2021. I got the Journeyer edition of this deck, which is a more pink version. It's similar to this one, I feel like, except for the background. It's more pink and purpley. It was $50 at the time, which was a steal considering this deck retails for like 70 or 80 bucks. I did daily draws with the deck. I pulled a single card each time, and I read the guidebook until each card was done. So basically, I would do like draw a card, read the guidebook, journal about it, and then put it at the bottom of the deck. And then the next day I would draw another card, not in order, but I would draw another random card, kind of look at it, read the guidebook, journal about that one, put that at the bottom, then go through until I went through the entire deck that way. So I did that. I finished looking at all the cards. I set it on the shelf for a while, and I basically decided I'm just never going to read with it again. I rehomed it, and I didn't think about it since. So that was that. Then, maybe a year later, I have more tarot knowledge, and at this phase of my life in my tarot practice, I'm currently craving more imagery that's a little bit more intuitive and not as scenic as all of my other decks are. So I found myself thinking about this again. And honestly, the fact that this deck is going out of print and they might not restock it or reprint it after this has been sold out, that was probably another factor in what made me want to think about the deck again. Sorry, I haven't been checking my screen. I don't know if these have been in focus or not. Or visible, I guess. The foil be visible. Anyway, so that's why I was kind of on break from this deck. However, I decided to buy this deck again because their cyber sale around Black Friday was too good to pass up. So now I have it back in my collection. So here, let me flip through some of the minors for you. So we were on a break. I had it. I was done with it. I moved it on, and then I kind of want it again. Granted, this time I did choose to get the Shadow Edition instead of the Journeyer Edition because I like that this one seems more contrasty than the other one. I feel like the other one, the light gold foil, was not contrasting well enough against the lighter pink and purple background. So this one, it's more visible. So maybe I'll have more luck and enjoy this one more. But also I decided to bring this back because I figured like it's just nice to have pretty things. You know, this is definitely my prettiest deck. The gold foil, the abstract images on here. It's just all the reasons why I wasn't into it before, it being abstract and it being too fancy, I'm now circling back to it for those same reasons. So pretty funny. That's my We Were on a Break deck, the Weaver Tarot. Number 7, Marriage Material, a deck that has proven its value to you. So interestingly, I had a different deck slated for the spot, but I changed it last minute. This is the Muse Tarot. I wrote off this deck for a long time and, passed it up every time I saw it on sale or people were selling it because I was like, the images are too pretty. They're not my vibe. I'm not into this like airy, poetic, fanciful, fancy, artsy vibe. However, a few years after being into tarot, my tastes are changing and I'm looking at different things differently. And I was like, I think I could enjoy the Muse Tarot actually. I think I kind of want a deck that is a little bit more artsy and flowery and fancy and all the things that I hated at first about it. And this has really proven its value to me. Literally this week alone, I just did a conversational reading with this deck a few days ago and the cards were pretty spot on. I was like, what is this experience teaching me? And it spat out the death card at me and it told me more cards that were very accurate to my situation. I don't have situations often where I'm like shaken to my core about how accurate a reading was. It felt like this deck was seeing right into my soul, seeing exactly what I needed to hear, whether I wanted to hear it or not. And I feel like that is a little bit cliche to say, but I don't have experiences like that often where it's like, oh, I actually really needed to hear this. I felt so pierced by the messages that this deck was giving me. And I feel like that has really proven its value to me. And I think on a less woo-woo and less spiritual level, I really love the way that these pieces, these assets have been collaged together. I think that the concepts, I don't know, it's cool. I guess similar to how I was talking about the Mystical Moments deck, this one is just, I like how poetic it is. I like how artsy it is. I like how metaphorical it is. This deck, it challenges me, or it inspires me, I guess, to really look at and feel what's in the card and try to imagine myself in this world. Oh yeah, also, another reason why I started getting more into this deck is because of the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Seeing the multiverse and how that was shown and explained and just played out, that made me really inspired to try out this deck as well. Because imagine a world where, things are other things and our world, and I don't know, it's like imagine a world where things are more abstract and you can look at things more metaphorically rather than literally as our mundane world is. So I definitely attribute my interest in this deck to that movie. Yeah, I don't know, man, it's super cool. And the readings I've done with it have been incredible. It definitely inspires me a lot creatively and artistically. So yeah, that is the Marriage Material deck. And lastly, number 8, the Happily Ever After deck, your true love in a deck. This is the Way of the Panda Tarot. I do have the box for it, but I like to keep it in this bag because it's a lot easier to put in my purse whenever I go out. Specifically, my Happily Ever After is the mini version. I do have the regular size version, but the mini version is my true love. This was the first tarot deck that I ever bought. I decided to get the mini because I was afraid of committing to the higher price tag of the regular size. 3 years later, I still absolutely love this deck. I take it with me whenever I go out because I'm always worried about if I want to just nervously shuffle or fidget with it, basically. I really enjoy the watercolors. I enjoy the different concepts illustrated through this deck. It's not just a happy fluffy deck. There are some harder concepts in here, like this one. The creator, Kim San, she really inspired me when I was first starting because her videos about storytelling through the minors and through the majors was really helpful for me. It was so cool to see someone be so expressive, especially a fellow Asian diaspora person. To see someone else be so expressive and so in their own power was so inspirational to me. And Kim's energy just really flows through this deck, and I feel it inspires me. This deck is also kind of a shadow work deck for me, and I would love to talk about that in a separate video because it's just got a lot. It's a lot for me. And what I love about this deck is that, just similar to like my real life, I guess, marriages or happily ever afters, like there are times when I do want to spend time away from this deck and I want to explore and appreciate other things. But this deck is still always the number one. It's always the one that I will cherish the most. And it is the one that challenges me the most. It is the one that comforts me the most. It really just sings to me. Again, I've said sings to me a lot, but it just is my favorite deck. The Happily Ever After deck, The Way of the Panda, especially in the mini version. So that was the Valentine's Tarot tag and the Deck Crush VR. Thank you to those who created these prompts, these tags. As always, these are fun to think about, and they're fun to kind of puzzle together which decks fit in which categories here. Normally, I don't do much for Valentine's Day, but I had a lot of fun putting together this like pink eyeshadow look and literally making this pink crochet vest for this video. I mean, even though I'm wearing it for this video for the first time, I'm also gonna have it in my wardrobe to wear for future events. Side note, did I spend 30 minutes putting on my makeup for this video for like a 2-minute intro? Yeah, maybe I did. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was, because putting on makeup is fun. And also, I work from home, so literally when else would I get to wear makeup and have people see it? Pretty much never. So, ta-da! Ta-da! Anyway, so that is the video. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you in another video. Bye!